Before you can figure out where you're going, you gotta look back at where you've been. There's things that happen that seem like they didn't mean nothing at the time. But then you realize they mean everything.
Now, we do know how the story ends for two characters in particular, but there are a host of characters on Raising Kanan where we have no idea. There's Raquel Thomas, Lou, Marvin, Unique, Stefano, Famous, and so many more. But at the center of the storyline when it comes to most of these players, and the one person that will be integral to what happens to most of these characters, is Raq. There are a lot of moving chess pieces, storylines, plots, and various things that will definitely shift the dynamics for a lot of these characters. But as I described Raq in my previous Raising Kanan video, she is the heartbeat of this show. Her relationship with Kanan, the storyline which centers around the Thomases, her running the Thomas organization, her battle with Unique, then a romantic relationship, and who knows what's to come in season 4. She's now also in a business relationship with Stefano, and there's still going to be a lot of animosity between Snaps and Pop. As always, she'll also be firmly on law enforcement's radar. Everything revolves around Raq having various relationships and her moving across the chessboard just like a queen. A pawn is very limited to its movement, a bishop can only move diagonally, a rook is definitely an important piece that can move across the chessboard sideways and forward. It definitely is an important piece, that's for sure. But the queen, apart from the king being the most important piece, which will eventually become Kanan, apart from the king being the most important piece, the queen is the most powerful piece. That's because of the way it can move, and that's Raq. She's the most powerful piece on Raising Kanan at this moment in time, where she's involved in pretty much everything. So with that being said, in the rest of this breakdown, we're going to explore Raq's chessboard in a bit more detail, her relationships, her business operation, her enemies, old and new, and generally what we can expect when it comes to the world of Raquel Thomas in Raising Kanan Season 4. Now heading into Season 4, where are we going to be when it comes to the relationship between Kanan and Raq? I do think we have to dissect that relationship to begin with. The spine of this series, the heart of it has always been Kanan's relationship with his mother. It's always been the defining relationship, and everything else has orbited that on some level. I think the important piece of Howard's death is how it impacts the relationship between Raq and Kanan. That's certainly something we see play out in subsequent episodes. So, heading into Season 4, one of the big issues, and just one of many, is going to be the death of Kanan's father, Detective Howard. We know Raq and Kanan have had a very turbulent relationship to say the least, which stems from a lot of lies, a lot of manipulation, and also the death of a few key players such as D-Wiz and Scrappy, who we are going to come to in a bit more detail later on. Although early on, Kanan's actions definitely didn't help, that's for sure. He went after Buck 20 when Raq had already given up those corners to Unique. He cooked a bad batch of product which resulted in the death of not just a number of junkies on the street, but also Nicole, who at the time was Duke's girl. And there are a few more other examples of Kanan's, frankly, stupidity. But the crux of the issues between both Kanan and Raq definitely stems from Raq's lies and manipulation. The trust between them is completely broken. And so when you add Detective Howard's death into the mix, it definitely makes their relationship even more complex. Because at the end of the day, even though Kanan didn't have much of a relationship with Detective Howard, at the end of the day, he was Kanan's father. Now to explain this, all Raq has to do is tell Kanan, look, it was him or Uncle Marvin. He was pushing Marvin to take the fall, and this was the only way to save Marvin because law enforcement were definitely closing in on one of them. However, if Raq is going to be honest with Kanan and tells him the truth, do we really expect Kanan to believe her after everything she's done? I personally don't think so. I think we can even make a case where Raq will probably be on her own same bullshit, where she just throws Kanan another story. You just never know with Raq. So, heading into the early stages of Season 4, with Kanan, definitely expect to hear a very uncomfortable conversation around Detective Howard. Now, speaking of uncomfortable conversations, I think this might be another.
My period's late, Kanan.
Towards the end of Season 3, we learned that Crystal was pregnant.
So, I'm a young mom. And don't make me no young grandma.
Early on in Season 1, we did also hear Raq warn Kanan. She didn't want to be a young grandmother, but it does seem like it could be a possibility. However, we do also have to mention, even though we know Kanan will have a son, who he will name Sean, the mother of Sean was Jarita. We met her back in power in Season 2. Whether Sasha Penn and the writers have retconned this particular storyline, who knows? And who knows whether the baby could even survive. If we've learned one thing about power, they're not afraid to take away an unborn child. But either way, at some point you would have to think Raq would definitely find out, regardless of what happens with the baby. Or maybe he even has a conversation with Lou, Marvin, or maybe even Duke. We've all seen how Duke and Kanan kind of confide in each other and tell each other their secrets. So I for one wouldn't be surprised if he spoke to Duke first. Maybe that's how Raq finds out, and maybe that causes further tension between Kanan and Duke. I do think along with Raq and Kanan kind of drifting further apart, I do think the same will actually happen with Kanan and Duke, which I definitely will go through in a bit more detail in Duke's character breakdown. So, Detective Howard and also Crystal being pregnant, those are two plots that are going to make for some very uncomfortable and difficult conversations. Now, in terms of the complex relationship between Kanan and Raq, I don't think it's just going to stop at Detective Howard's death and also the conversation in regards to Crystal being pregnant. I do think Unique could play a pivotal role as well. In terms of Unique, you guys definitely know where I stand. I don't believe he is Breeze, but I can still see him having an influence on Kanan. You'd have to assume that Raq and Kanan would drift further apart. You'd also have to assume that Kanan will still want to do his own thing. On the other side, you also have Unique, who may feel some type of way when it comes to Raq taking her business under Stefano, and maybe he'll also want words in terms of Kanan getting rid of Ronnie. I think he'll definitely want answers as to what happened and what led to this moment. Unique is also one of a few characters that Kanan hasn't really had much of an interaction with. However, I do think it is long overdue. I also wouldn't be surprised if he kind of further poisons Kanan's mind and helps him develop in the streets. Unique was definitely a very smooth operator, and no doubt, Kanan will have a lot more mentors in the game and also maybe even Snaps and Pop. So, where I mentioned there are so many moving chess pieces when it comes to the relationship between Kanan and Raq, all of these characters could play a key role at some point either in Season 4 or in Season 5. But let's move on to Raq's criminal organization. Towards the end of Season 3, Raq came out the other end somewhat unscathed. She managed to evade law enforcement, save Marvin, lose in rehab, and he'll definitely be back with the family at some point in Season 4. And Ronnie's finally been taken off the chessboard, so he's out the way. She also has a 500k she borrowed from Stefano, so I guess there's no debt when it comes to that particular loan. She also has her operation up and running under Kwan with the 20 Chinese restaurants. However, this is where we may see a bit of conflict, especially between her and Unique. She quickly swooped in and made the deal with Stefano when they all thought Unique was taken off the chessboard. She also quickly scaled the business under Kwan, but in the teaser for Season 4, we did see someone hitting one of the Chinese restaurants. And what are the odds that this is Unique looking for revenge? I recently mentioned the one thing that Unique can do at this moment in time is fly under the radar. Everybody in the streets, including law enforcement, believe that he's dead, and he can kind of somewhat fuck with Raq's business, and nobody would even think to point the finger in Unique's direction. Kind of similar to how Kanan had pink sneakers messing with Ghost's organization in Season 1 of Power. Ghost was looking in everybody's direction apart from Kanan. So, in terms of Raq's organization, I do think we have to keep a very close eye on Unique's moves. Will he look to strike? Will he look to fuck things up and stay under the radar until he feels it's the right time to appear? Unique's moves are definitely going to be interesting in that first half of Season 4. Now, having said that, we all know Raq is someone who bows to no one, and we've also seen what she's capable of. So, whatever's thrown in her direction, I do think she'll be able to handle. But again, it will be very interesting to see which direction she points her finger in when a couple of her Chinese restaurants are in flames. Let's not forget, she made a very rash decision early in Season 2 getting rid of Scrappy, a huge mistake that caused a massive knock-on effect. So, let's see how this all unfolds in the first half. It's definitely going to be interesting. Now, in terms of a relationship with Marvin and Lou, with Marvin, we've all seen his transformation and how he stepped up in so many different ways for Raq. They definitely had a turbulent relationship in the early stages of raising Kanan, that's for sure, but boy have they kind of turned it around. Especially when Lou was going through his issues. In Season 4, no doubt that will kind of continue. Marvin will definitely play a big part in her organization. But it does also look like Lou will be kind of back to normal as well. And after they kind of patch things up towards the end of Season 3, I do think a redemption arc is in order for Lou's character. I do think he will come back and work on his music with a new talented artist in B Rilla. However, if and when Raq comes calling for his help, I think Lou's going to be flying the same flag as he's always done.
He'd know that when they put me in the ground, I'm gonna be flying the same fucking flag I've been flying. Because I don't flip. For nobody. Or nothing. And you know this.
That's what I'm talking about.
Nobody can question Lou's loyalty to the Thomases and also Raq. I mean, he even dropped D-Wiz and also recently Scrappy's mother, two moments which was kind of the catalyst for the turn that we saw in his character. But when the time comes when kind of Raq needs Lou, I definitely think he's going to be there for Raq, Marvin, Duke, and even Kanan. But what happens with both brothers come the end of season 4? I've already made an early prediction where I do think the Thomases will make it out of season 4. In season 5, I do think anyone is fair game. Nobody's going to be safe in season 5. In my opinion, it's just how do they kind of set things up for that kind of final season? If season 5 is a final season, will the Thomas siblings be a strong unit? Will there be conflict? Will they drift further apart? Could one of them even end up in an orange jumpsuit behind bars? We know Famous is kind of trapped under law enforcement's thumb at this moment in time, and who knows whether he gives up some kind of information that has an impact on the Thomases. You know, let's wait and see. So, let's see how they end season 4 when it comes to the Thomas siblings. Now, in terms of a couple of new characters we have to be wary of when it comes to Rock's chessboard, I think Snaps and Pop will be an ever-present threat. I think there's definitely going to be no love lost there between Snaps, Pop, and Rock. You could definitely tell there was a lot of tension between them, and Ronnie's death is just going to kind of make it worse. There's also a new crime boss in New Jersey who will definitely cause some problems. Bill Russo is said to be the new boss in New Jersey who's taken over Sal Buscemi, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see an alliance between him and Unique. So, with new enemies on the chessboard, Rock is going to need some new alliances, and that's where I think Ellie Tyler will come into the picture. I think Ellie Tyler will be a new alliance for Rock, who is said to have a very high financial price, and in a game where kind of trust is very rare, the Ellie description does say that Rock can trust Ellie Tyler, but let's wait and see. We know how things can turn very quick in the world of power, especially when there's money involved, power, control, and influence. Who's to say someone else doesn't kind of swoop in with a bigger briefcase for Ellie Tyler? Would his loyalty still lay with Rock? That's definitely something to consider because alliances can definitely shift in a heartbeat. Now, in terms of a relationship with Jukebox, again, I do have a separate video planned for Jukebox pretty soon, where we will dive deeper in terms of her relationships, so I will have a chapter on Rock and Juke, but that's a breakdown of where we are in terms of Rock's chessboard heading into all things Raq and Kanan Season 4. In terms of when we get the trailer, at this moment in time, I'm not entirely too sure. I think with the cancellation of Ghost, it probably means they're trying to spread the shows a bit more, and I am leaning towards Raq and Kanan premiering in January 2025, or even February. With that being said, drop all your thoughts and predictions down below in the comment section, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.